Good afternoon. House Democrats are excited and energized as we begin the benchmark 100th General Assembly. Though few in numbers, we are bold and strong in our convictions. We are determined to act in the best interest of all Missourians and to hold the majority accountable when it fails to do so. Our priorities for 2019, as they have always been for Democrats, include fighting for quality and affordable public education for all Missourians, access to affordable and quality health care for all Missourians, and defending rights for all workers throughout Missouri. This year, House Democrats are also committed to defending the will of Missouri voters. As you know, voters stood with progressive values in November, from increasing the statewide minimum wage to legalizing medical marijuana to enacting major redistricting and legislative ethics reform. We also overwhelmingly rejected the Republican push to undermine workers' ability to organize and defend their rights. House Democrats will do all we can to stop the majority from balancing their tax cuts on the backs of school children, the elderly, and disabled, and working families. Democrats will fight for a balanced budget that puts everyday Missourians first. And because of these Republican reckless tax policies that have sharply reduced state revenue collections, Missouri will once again be faced with difficult financial choices. Democrats will ensure that the state's most important investments in our people are not on the chopping block. With that, we'll take questions.
I think that the press release that was sent out a couple weeks ago anticipates a 2% revenue growth in FY 2020. But you're saying that there's going to be some sort of shortfall or budget tightening this year. And I was just wondering if you could explain what the difference is.
Yeah, well, we are still trying to figure out exactly the DOR mistakes from the withholding, and that's a big part of it. I've actually filed a bill addressing some of that that I'm happy to take questions about. But we have, unfortunately, not gotten information about what those numbers will look like, and so there is some concerns on cash flow, depending on these folks having to pay a bill that they may not have expected, if that will come in time or not.
Yeah, I think Representative Kendrick mentioned that the 2014 tax bill might not have been factored into the revenue estimate.
Yeah, and that's definitely a concern of ours. And we are still seeing the implications of that legislation, and unfortunately, we have not ever really known exactly what that bill would do to us, and so it is definitely a concern.
Speaking of ballot measures, voters did reject a proposal to raise the state's fuel tax. At this point, where are the conversations on that, both within your caucus and between yourself and your counterparts?
Definitely. Well, I can tell you within our caucus, funding the roads and bridges and making that a priority is definitely important to us. In terms of with the other side and what the plans are moving forward, we actually have heard nothing.
So the speaker during his speech mentioned that he referred to a broken criminal justice system. Do you agree with that? If so, how do you think it's broken and how should it be fixed?
Yeah, we definitely do. Democrats have been talking about criminal justice reform for decades. And so, frankly, I'm really excited to hear the Republicans talking about this now and making it a priority. That we have many bills moving forward, and I'm happy to turn it over to the Black Caucus chair, who their legislative priority is criminal justice reform. If you want to hear specifics about the legislation we'll be pushing.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Absolutely. I think a priority of our state needs to be helping ex-felons, people who deserve that second chance to have the employment opportunities that they so desire. We've also got to, I think with the passage of Amendment 2, it's kind of demonstrated how the idea of the state as a whole, the perspective has changed as far as with marijuana and I think low-level drug possession cases. So changing that from a situation of things that need to be kind of penalized versus treatment. And we saw that Republicans are interested in that as well by how we came back to a special session last session and were able to kind of expand our drug courts. So I'm really excited to work on legislation as far as that and getting rid of mandatory minimums. Oh, Stephen Roberts. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
I know you work with Speaker Harry Holt from Springfield, which is unprecedented. Are there any specific Springfield issues that you two, transportation, anything you two are working on together? And B, what kind of relationship do you have with Elijah Hart, who's from, I believe, 2 districts over?
Yeah, actually, he's right next to me, so our districts share a bordering line. I jokingly always say that there's not a single forum in Springfield about young leaders that the two of us don't sit next to each other. So Representative Har and I do have a great working relationship and work on a lot of things specifically in Springfield together. In terms of legislation that we're going to be working towards this year, we have had preliminary conversations about things from higher ed funding with community colleges in my district, and we have Missouri State in my district as well. So we've had some conversations around that, as well as some infrastructure conversations for the southern part of Southwest Missouri. But as of right now, we don't have anything official that we're moving forward with.
Actually, I have a question for Representative Roberts.
Yeah.
How divided is the Black Caucus over efforts to alter or repeal Clean Missouri? Because when I see people like Maria Chappelle-Maddow and Lacey Flake agree that they don't like it, and given that those two despise each other, it signals to me that there may be a difference of opinion among African-American politicians about whether it should stay or go. So I'm interested to hear what your caucus thinks about those inevitable efforts coming forward.
Sure. I mean, that's a great question, but unfortunately, we haven't seen any legislation or ideas as far as what a repeal or any kind of changes to the act that was passed. So, you know, we're going to wait and see what's proposed before we kind of come out one way or the other.
What's your feeling on Clean Missouri?
I think that it's important legislation. I think that it shows kind of the mindset of our voters in the state of Missouri, and that it's something that needed to be done. Yep.
Yes.
Robert reported yesterday that the Republican supermajorities in both the House and the Senate appear to be ready to offer a constitutional amendment that would alter or undo Amendment 1, the anti-gerrymandering amendment that passed in November. And that would, and if that goes through, it would go on the statewide ballot either later this year or in 2020. So how does Democrats respond to that, or
Yeah, definitely. Well, as Representative Roberts just stated, we have not seen this legislation yet, so we are interested, obviously, to see what this looks like. As I stated previously, I am committed to working towards upholding the will of the people. The Democratic caucus, obviously, as stated, we have a lot of varying opinions on issues, and I think that's important. You know, we represent all parts of the state and constituents from all over, and we have obviously differing opinions. But among all things, we have a respect for our voters. Overwhelmingly, folks supported or pushed against the various ballot initiatives, and you know, as of now, we're holding true to that. Hopefully, we will see some legislation soon, so we know what the majority party is talking about.
One of the things that Governor Parson talked about as a priority is finding a funding source for early child education. I know that's been a priority for Democrats for a long time. My question to you is, has there been any discussion about what the funding source should be, and whether, you know, it's going to be like you may be able to get that done this year, or maybe like a 2-year process to actually find something to help supplement programs for teachers?
Right. Well, among the two caucuses, we have not had conversations about what that looks like yet. You know, over the years, the Democrats have been pushing for the online streamlined sales tax for a while. I know that there's legislation already filed regarding sports betting. So there have been some preliminary conversations about various ways to increase our revenue source, but in terms of specifically for early childhood, we haven't had those conversations yet. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
It's a big thing.